Hey all, this is 012 Boku coming at you with another movie review, and we are moving right along into the Bond films, and I am proud to say that I love that every which minute here. And we are continuing on with right after GoldenEye, you betcha. Tomorrow never dies. And that's the last time I will be intimidating Sheryl Crow. Because, yeah, I have to even admit right now, that was pretty flippin' bad. And, yeah, sorry for the glare. I've been discovering that, well, yeah, it's a reflection and just, honestly, the reflection coming off the camera and everything else. So, sorry about that. But, see, where did I put the damn thing? Uh, that is a good. Where the hell? It was sitting right. I put it back. No, where? Hold on, guys. I had the book. Give me a moment. And now I definitely will know what I'm going to edit out of that video, that little part there. I put my booklet over on the counter because I figured if these movies come with booklets, I'm going to start showing you guys. And, yep, Tomorrow Never Dies. I'm sort of glad that we got, I think, the actual movie poster here of what we have. And, like, this is a commemorative thing, because this was, like, the commemorative edition, because this was the first case in the James Bond movie case that came out. And when we get to Die Another Day, I'll probably show you guys that movie case, because they had all the original movies from 1962 to 2002 come out together at that time. I mean, I would like to get, you know, probably not all the movies within it. If I can get them like brand new boxed like that, I won't open them. But I would probably love to own a lot of the original films as they were in their boxes and have the boxes to put the rest of the films in. I know I wouldn't have one for Casino Royale, Spectre, or Skyfall, but or Quantum of Solace too. I forgot about that piece of crap, Quantum of Solace. But yeah, I mean, it'd be just a cool thing to have. But we start on Tomorrow Never Dies here. It's again going back to the film as well. Tomorrow Never Dies took place in 1997, so a few years back. This is Pierce Brosnan's second film as James Bond, where he is back doing a great job once again. We have. Did the film open like that? How this film open? Ah, that's right. The film opened up with Russia. The Russian main general, the British Prime Minister, played by Jeffrey Keane, I believe. Yeah, the British Prime Minister is played by Jeffrey Keane. I don't think he's mentioned in here. Yeah, he's not mentioned in here, but the British Prime Minister, played by Jeffrey Keane, is overseeing M, played by Judi Dench still. And we also have a new ally of Bond and guard for M that comes in. Colin Salmon's the actor's name. He plays Charles Robinson. Robinson is another agent who's an ally of Bond. We see him come in this one, so it's awesome seeing Charles Robinson come into this. It's really cool. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Yeah, but Charles Robinson is in this movie, played by Colin Salmon once again. Sorry if I just repeated that, which I know I did. But they're overseeing a outside of Russia area, I think between Russia and Siberia this is. It's like a little fort or not little fort, it's a little bunker base in the snowy mountains they're trying to like keep tabs on all the world's terrorists because we see a man who's focal to the point of the film named Henry Gupta, who I believe they have him here. Yeah, Henry Gupta, who's played by Ricky Jay. He's buying an American encoder where they can encode numbers to keep satellite images and other things off track to where, if you believe that people are at the designated place of origin that you believe they are, the encoder sends a message to a completely different place, knowing that they were miles off course and not even on your radar. So it's like a tricking thing. Henry Gupta is in the midst of buying this to check a bunch of other assassins and terrorists. And we just see this man, like, hidden below. Well, we don't see the man. We just see this camera that came up. And the camera's, like, scanning, looking over people, checking them out. The Russian general and the British ambassador are trying to just say, let's end this. This man has been, this agent of yours has been able to find every known terrorist on our list, everybody we look for and find. So let's just send them and take it out and bomb it. So you have you have like the British Prime Minister telling one of their destroyers to fire two ballistic missiles at this place, destroying everything. And is trying to tell the British Prime Minister, my man isn't finished. Wait for him to get done. You don't know what's there. And then all of a sudden, we see somebody yelling at Charles Robinson. And Robinson's saying, White Knight. That's who the guy is called. The guy is called White Knight, who's showing them everything. And he tells, like, White Knight, you need to get out of there. Come on, White Knight. Leave the place. It's time to go. And then he's trying to warn Robinson there's something in front of the plane, and there's these nuclear missiles. Or no, there's this Russian jet that has tactical nuclear missiles tied to it that are like mini ones, but there's still enough explosive material in there that the Russian general said it'll make no, sorry, it'll make a Chernobyl look like picnic. And so they're trying to cancel the missile. The missile can't cancel as they already fired it and it's out of range. All of a sudden, we find out that the White Knight, is going to go take care of this himself. And that's when Bond springs into action, starts taking out a bunch of guys, starts heading for the Russian jet with the missiles on it. Henry Gupta and a bunch of other guys see this. They commandeer a vehicle. Henry Gupta gets out of there with the encoder. And, Bond basically gets into the jet, takes out some guys, gets the missiles out of there before the ballistic missiles hit the place, destroying the whole bunker area. And Bond is trying to, like, escape the area. And what happens is there's this other guy in this other Russian jet that took off after him. And there's also the co-pilot in there. And the co-pilot starts choking Bond, trying to kill him. And, trying to make sure that Bond, at least Bond and him get destroyed together, or that he kills Bond so he can take care of the jet. And the other pilot and the other Russian pilot shooting at Bond. And it's like a great, like, little funny dogfight. And then Bond gets below the guy in the jet, and then we see the classic, Bond puts, flips up the ejector seat, the pilot he had in there with him goes up, or the co-pilot he had in there with him goes up into the other guy's thing. For some reason, the guy's jet flips over and it explodes. I don't know exactly how that works. Maybe I'll have to listen to the audio commentary or watch special features again, but I don't know how exactly that worked, but that's how the beginning ends, and Bond says a nice little quip saying, tell the Russian general where he'd like his bombs delivered. And, it's just an awesome little scene. Then that gives you the great opening and great song with Russell Crowe, Tomorrow Never Dies. Then we see, I believe the ship is called the HMS Devonshire, near the South China Seas, or it's saying it's near the South China Seas. And what happens is you have these two like Chinese MiG fighters come out of nowhere saying that, the British ship Devonshire needs to turn back or dock into a Chinese port, or you'll be fired upon because, you're in our waters, you're in our territory. The ensign, or the captain has the ensign check where they are. The ensign says they're still within, the national waters that they can be in. They're not in China's territory. And as we see Henry Gupta in another scene with the encoder putting it down that, keeping the ship miles off course. All of a sudden, what happens is that we have another ship being led by one of the villain's main men. Let's see, what's his name? Oh, Stamper, played by German actor Götz Otto, and that is the guy's name, Götz Otto. And Götz Otto, who plays Stamper, very big, very imposing figure, pretty good actor and great henchman character for the film. We see him with his men set up using this drill missile, as they have it. It's this sort of like sea missile that has these teeth on it that can drill into metals and everything. And what happens is they release this in the water. It starts to attack the HMS Devonshire. It starts to like rip holes in it, making the ship sink and drown. And sadly, a lot of the British sailors and soldiers on this ship end up getting killed. There are some survivors in the water, and what happens is Stamper not only sinks the ship, but they have one of their men in this stealth boat, because that's what they're in. They're this black stealth boat that moves slowly and silently, and its metal alloy keeps them from showing up on radar, keeps them invisible to radar. So Stamper and his men fire a missile at one of the Chinese MiGs, and one of the MiG pilots gets blown up, and there's British soldiers in the water. You have their stealth boat get near the British soldiers. They're trying to climb aboard the ship, but Stamper and his men just go out there with I forget the gun they use, but it's some sort of machine gun, and Stamper and his men mow all the men down. And we have Stamper talking to this one man who's typing in headlines, British sailors found killed by Chinese machine gun fire, British sailors murdered by Chinese machine guns. And we have Stamper report in to this man saying, there were this many British soldiers, there were this many dead, hey, hey, and this guy's loving it. What happens is after that's done, it becomes brighter in this guy's office, and we find out that this guy who is the villain of this movie is Elliot Carver, greatly played by Jonathan Pryce. Great role for Jonathan Pryce for his British acting experience to show up in this movie. He was a great villain. I know not a lot of people give him credit, but I really did like Elliot Carver in this movie, and I also did like how once again the villain gets second billed, because they don't always bill the villains a second. They usually give that to the love interest, but I like how the villains got second billing for both Goldeneye and this movie, because Jonathan Pryce played a phenomenal character as Elliot Carver. And what happens is he is trying to do this to just stir up the pot for his news media. And we got this scene with a whole bunch of men and women listening to him where he's telling people to do smear campaigns, release dirty secrets on them. He tells Michael G. Wilson, who is one of his men in a cameo in this movie, to say, tell the president if he doesn't lower the cable rates that we will, release a tape with him and that girl outside the hotel suite. And he's like, inspired, sir. I'll do that. And he's like, well, and once he's lowered the cable rates, release the tape anyway. Consider him slimed. It's so underhanded and whoa, and I'm actually shocked they did that in that movie, considering we were only a year removed from the presidential Monica Lewinsky scandal, which is what made that joke great. So if you're aware of that time, that joke was actually pretty funny. And we learn how, he's a media mogul man who just he loves to stir the pot. He wants to be the news, and he creates the news because he ends with the thing getting more information from Stamper really quick. He goes back to his media men and he says, there's been a tragedy brewing in the South China Seas between British and Chinese soldiers. I want coverage here. I want internet. I want media. I want TV. I want everything. And then ends telling his men, no, there's no news like bad news. And I love that because that holds up very well today. The whole how bad news really covers all press. We really never see any sort of good news in the news at all anymore. And it really is a true stigma that I love that's in this film, that they really focus on it. And we sometimes hope that media doesn't really stir the pot for things, that this stuff really happens. But I won't get into that because I know there's been a lot of stuff going on right now. I'm pretty sure you guys have seen it all in the news about that type of stuff. So I'm not going to get too far into that. But I do like how they focused on that concept for this movie. And as it continues on, basically, Bond is back in England, and I think he's actually in Oxford, Mackinnon, an Oxford professor, and you have like Moneypenny talking with him, and you have Bond talking to the Oxford professor, and oh yeah, it was Austrian talking to her in Austrian, and like because he's telling them Moneypenny, I'm brushing up on my Austrian Moneypenny, and Moneypenny is still greatly played by Samantha Bond in this one, so Samantha Bond is still being a great Moneypenny, and what happens is you have at the end of it where Bond knows he has to go, he says goodbye to the Austrian lady in Austrian in the actual language, and then you have Moneypenny go, oh, you were always such a cunning linguist, James. She hangs up the phone, turns around, yep, I'm staring at her like, and like Moneypenny's like, don't ask, and you have M go, don't tell. In a great scene there. So the scene sets up the next part of the movie where Moneypenny and M and Robinson give Bond his next mission, and they want to have Bond check out, China to see what's going on and what happened with their British soldiers, because like the British ambassador saw that, he's ticked, he wants to initiate a retaliation on China, and the Prime Minister says he wants to do it as well. M wants to investigate. They're only giving M and her MI6 division 2 days to investigate this, so they're telling Bond what's up, and they think that Elliot Carver is involved, and they mention how they want Bond to go talk to Elliot Carver's wife, I think it's Paris Carver, played by Terry Hatcher in this movie. Who Terry Hatcher wasn't too bad. She was actually enjoyable in this movie. I admit, I'm like my mom. I'm not the biggest Terry Hatcher fan, but I think Terry Hatcher was good in this movie for what she was able to do. And man, speaking of Terry Hatcher, talk about an actress that like flew off the map. Like, where the heck has Terry Hatcher been all these years? God only knows what the heck she's doing. She like completely disappeared. Like shortly after this film, she disappeared. Like right after it, and I think she was also in the final episode of Seinfeld, which we all know was in 1999. See, after that, it's like Terry Hatcher completely disappeared. But I'm just curious about that. But we have it where Bond goes to China, checks out Elliot Carver's place. He meets with Elliot Carver, and you know talks with him, and Bond is under the disguise of a banker, like he's using a banker as his name, and I think his name is Mr. Or no, he says James Bond is his name, but I think it also comes up at some point that he's Mr. Somerset. Mr. Somerset is one of his key names that he's used in several films and even in the Bond video games at this point. But he finds Paris. He tries to talk to her about him, but she also slaps him in the face, which actually shocks a few people. And Bond's like, "Now I get it. Was it something I said?" And she's like, "How about the words, 'I'll be right back'?" And what happens is Paris is refusing to talk to James. James keeps trying to press her that that they can work on things with each other. She refuses to talk to him at first. She leaves him standing where he is. What happens is that we see how Elliot Carver sees this. He sends men to go bring Bond into a room to where they're starting to work him over and soften him up. Elliot Carver says, "How do you know this Mr. Bond character?" Because he's suspicious of him. And she's like, "He's just a friend." And he's like, "You're a terrible liar, my dear." And so that goes on and on. Stamper's trying to get to Bond to help with the interrogation. But what happens is Bond actually beats back the thugs at a hilarious thing where they're in a soundproof room and the other guy in the other room doesn't see or hear this because he's watching the Elliot Carver broadcast. Bond escapes his surroundings. He shuts Elliot Carver's broadcast down in front of the whole world, which pisses Elliot Carver off. Stamper gets there too late. Bond leaves the conference. We also find out there is a lady there who whose name is Wai Lin, who's played by Michelle Yeoh, who works for the Chinese government. She also says the Chinese News Republic. And, Bond is sort of taken by her, but we don't know much about her. But Elliot Carver is, entranced by her, wants to get to know her, and all that cool, good stuff. What happens is, Bond, who escapes, and like Bond's back at his hotel. He's got bruises and stuff from Carver's men, and he's trying to drink and do things. He picks up his gun because he sees somebody coming in the room, but he finds out it's Paris. Paris is like still yearning for him. She still wants to be with him, and I mean, it makes you wonder because you never really know why Paris married Elliot Carver in the first place. So I mean, you never fully understand it because you do sort of see in a way that there was probably love between Elliot Carver and Paris at some point, but you don't get the full extent of it. So I would have loved if we could have had that fleshed out a little more, but for some reason it wasn't. But that's just me. So what happens is, Carver or Paris Carver and James Bond are in bed together. Paris Carver tells Bond what he needs to know about how there's something going on in one of Elliot Carver's factories. Bond is promising Paris that he'll get her out of there, and Paris is like, well, you can't protect me from him. You can't protect me from his people. You'll never be able to do it. And what happens is Bond still promises Paris, I will get you out of there. And what happens is he tells Paris to stay at his hotel room. So he leaves to check out Elliot Carver's printing press, and Bond sneaks in there to like look for what he needs to look for, and he sees like there's a satellite there that's going up. We see Henry Gupta and a bunch of Carver's men come in saying that they want to put the satellite up. If you break the satellite, you bought it, and all that cool stuff. What happens is you have Bond going in through, the different parts of the offices. We see the office that Henry Gupta was in. He tries to like scan and do things and do all the cool stuff with that, like how he gets his cell phone that's a fingerprint scanner to where he finds Gupta's fingerprint, he scans it, and then he uses the thing on it for use, and it opens up a safe to where there's like, heroin, cocaine in there, piles of money, and then he finds the decoder, gets what he wants, and he notices that somebody's trying to break into Carver's place too, takes out his gun, he sees it's Wai Lin, and he's like looking for a new story, and like, so that leads to a huge firefight where both Wai Lin and it's either Wylan or Waylon. I forget. I'm gonna say Waylon at the moment because that's how I always used to call her. So Waylon and Bond try to get the heck out of there. They try to escape. Bond is being chased by the men. Waylon shoots like a grappling hook beam to where she flips her belt around and she actually rappels down part of the wall to where she gives like a sexily, scantily, see you later there, hunk wave because it's like, well, I'm going to get out of here and avoid this and I'm going to leave you to it. And, Bond's there being with the guys as he's like punching them out, shooting them, doing what he has to do. He actually, fights a bunch of guys in the printing press. Several guys go into the printing, with the blood splatter that they know they died in one of the printing presses and things like that. But he eventually gets out of there, gets into his new Aston Martin car, which I forgot is a remote control car from his phone, which he actually gets from Q, because I forgot Desmond Llewellyn is once again back as Q, gets this awesome car from Q, where Q's like an Avis salesman. It's really cool. Shows up in an Avis outfit. He's trying to help Bond drive the car to where, like, Q's trying to ease his finger like that onto the phone pad. Can barely drive the stinking thing. And then Bond's like, well, let's see how he responds to my touch Q. So he takes the thumb pad, uses his thumb, and like he's like perfect driving it, and you know, doing doing drifts, swerves, tight curves, things like that, to the point where the car comes up, you know, right to them and stops right before there, and right before them. And then there's the funny part where Q goes through like the whole insurance waiver for the new car, and like says, "Are you going to do property damage, unsafe driving?" And all, and Bond's like, "Yep, yep, yep," frequently. So it pisses Q off, and Desmond Llewellyn's reactions are priceless. And after Bond was also done playing with the car, you have the classic line of Q just going, "Grow up, 007." So just awesome scene there with Desmond Llewellyn that I forgot to mention a little bit earlier. After he gets into China to unveil his it was now that I think about it, it's either it was China they were in, or it was Germany. I think it was Germany they were in there. So sorry, where they were at wasn't China. It was in Hamburg, Germany that they were at, where all that was taking place. But what happens is you have Bond. Yeah, Bond get back to the hotel room, safe and sound, after getting away from the printing press. And what happens is you have Elliot Carver, who calls Bond, saying, you have two things that belong to me. You have the Knicker and Coda that you stole, and my wife in your hotel room. So he hurries to the hotel room, to where he finds the hotel room's been a little messed up, and then he finds Paris Carver laying on the bed. It looks like she's been shot or killed, which she has. She's been killed. And what happens is you hear this voice go, "Oh, tut, tut." And we find out that that is another assassin of Elliot Carver's, and a master to the student of Stamper, named Dr. Kaufman, greatly played by Vincent. Make sure I get his name right. Yeah, Vincent Schiavelli, who says he's great at torture and an excellent pistol marksman. So he's pointing the gun at him, and there's this tape of Paris's death that they mention on the tape, and with an unknown man, which is also what alerted Bond, because he overheard this tape. And he finds Dr. Kaufman there. Dr. Kaufman, is explaining how the story would be on the news in an hour. And he's gloating, explaining basically for the most part, as villains often do in these movies, what Elliot Carver's doing. He just sort of goes through it, and he just says he's doing a job. And what happens is while Kaufman's there, Kaufman is actually getting ready, because he has Bond at his mercy, and he's like, "Now, Mr. Bond, I'm afraid it's time for our little chat." She did, yeah, yeah, Stomper, yeah, what's up? And like, "Stop yelling in the ear, yeah." And then, like, you have this funny scene where, Dr. Kaufman's like, "I feel like an idiot. They want me to have you open the car. They can't get the car open. They want me to have you open it." Because, they're trying to break into his car, to where they sealed off the garage and everything, to steal back the encoder. And what happens is, there's this whole, stupid scene where they're trying to go through the motions, and you have Bond take out his cell phone and saying, "The cell phone here can do it." And, he's about to press it to open it, but then you have Dr. Kaufman go, "No, no, no, Mr. Bond, let me do it, yeah?" And, he takes it and he's like, "Okay, what do I do?" And he's like, I think Bond says, "You press 3 and send." So Dr. Kaufman presses 3 and sends. He actually gets tased on, I believe, the front of his chest, and then Bond shoots up, grabs the gun in Dr. Kaufman's hand, and, they're both struggling for the gun, and then Bond immediately works the gun to where it's pointed, like, right there at Dr. Kaufman's cheek, and you have Dr. Kaufman go, "Wait, wait, I'm just a professional doing a job." And then you have Bond with what, once again, if people say he doesn't act vengefully, and, if he's emotionless sometimes, it's another scene to where he just looks and he says, "So am I." Bam! And just like point blank in Dr. Kaufman's face kills him. I mean, great scene, great stuff there. And you have Bond go out the window. He goes down the fire escape. Stamper's trying to call the man who was right across from the other building watching Dr. Kaufman to get down and into the parking lot to where he gets into the car. Stamper's men and Carver's men, were shooting at him. They're trying to get him. They're doing all the things that they can to stop him. And there's like classic gags of the car with the gadgetry with road spikes, oil slick. Part of the stopper of the car becomes like a saw because they're trying to stop him with like this very large steel wire to cut the car in half. So what happens is they, he uses this little saw on the car stopper to basically saw through. It goes flying, smashes through some car windows, and it just shows it's just an awesome scene. And he basically like is getting chased by these guys. They're crashing into things, and he actually like jumps out of the car at some point to avoid detection, but he's still using the remote control to drive the car, which he was doing the entire time. He was in the back seat with the car using the remote control to drive it on the cell phone, and he's like continually driving it. And what happens is, at the top of the parking lot of the hotel, he crashes it through the top to where he like does this with the cell phone, putting his hands up, and it literally crashes into an Avis building to where like you rent cars and it's like you have like the car is like have like a feminine voice because Q thought he would respond to that, and he's like I want to congratulate you on a safe journey. And like Bond laughs as he closes the cell phone. This leads Bond to like right outside the national Chinese waters to where he's meeting up with American Marines, and he meets up with the old acquaintance Joe Don Baker is back as Jack Wade. The final time we will see Jack Wade in these films, which to me was a sad thing because I really did like Joe Don Baker playing Jack Wade. I wish we could have seen him in like the final two films as well. The World Is Not Enough and Die Another Day. It would have been awesome to see Jack Wade make an appearance in those movies as well. But this will be the final time we see Jack Wade, but it's awesome to see Joe Don Baker again. And, Bond actually says, Wade, what are you doing here? And he says, we have no interest in seeing World War III unless we start it. And, once again, it's like, good point in many ways. It's nothing too bad or heavy-handed, so hey, hey. So what happens is they're trying to get Bond to where they'll get him over to where the ship was, and what happens is that Bond has to do a halo jump to where the drill instructor goes over everything that could go wrong with the halo jump, which is really like it's not affecting Bond, but he's like, oh, thrilling, my lungs could pop to the tank, or I could get tangled in my parachute and drown, hooray! And like, what's cool is that the drill instructor telling him this is actor, former military sergeant as well, Al Matthews from Aliens. If you guys have seen Aliens, you know that he was the Sergeant Capone from Aliens. And I mean, I thought that was a nice little supporting character cameo for Al Matthews to have in that film too. And what happens is, that Wade, the sergeant, and this one tech advisor are going through like right before Bond is making the jump, and they said, this is where the ship thought it was in the like English seas, and the Chinese thought it was in the China seas, and he's like, this is where it actually was, and it's actually like right outside the Vietnamese waters, like near North Vietnam, and the tech guy is saying, well, geez, does he have any American marking on him? And they're like, well, the tank, the parachute, the suit itself. And the guy's like, geez, if the Vietnamese catch it, they're going to go crazy. Bond makes the awesome halo jump, which is a cool stunt in the film. And like Jack Wade, for a final thing in his scene, says, he didn't even say goodbye. And it's like, all those great things. So Bond jumps into the water. He makes the halo jump perfectly. He starts climbing down into the ship where they're like checking things out, and they found out at some point Stamper and his men and Carver's men took one of the nuclear missiles from the HMS Devonshire as they are plotting something with it. And as Bond's checking all this out, going through the ship, he runs into Wei Lin. And Wei Lin and him actually, I think, for a few moments, get like trapped on the ship. And what happens is they work together to get out. You know, they're not battling each other or anything. They're working together. And what happens is when Wei Lin gets up, we don't see American troops there, but we see one of Wei Lin's guys there. And she speaks in Chinese. She's like, come on, bring the boat over. And we see just, Wei Lin's guy staring at him. All of a sudden, this spear goes through the guy's back, and he like slumps over the side. We see Stamper and his men come over. They throw Wayland's guy's body over the side, and like we hear Stamper go, "Get them out of the water!" That sort of robotic voice. But they're bringing them to now. They're going to China, so they bring them to China now, to where they're giving like Stamper's bringing them before Elliot Carver, and in the classic way, Elliot Carver's you know, like I plan to just cause civil unrest in China. I want to create chaos. The news will be there providing cool media coverage, and like I will be the first in line to get the best scoops. And you can basically see like this guy's just doing it for money and to further his own, personal thing, and that they're using uh, a member of the Chinese military and a guy named General Chang, who we don't really know too much about, but we know that Elliot Carver has General Chang in his pocket. And basically, he sets up for Bond and Wei Lin to be killed. Stamper is going to torture them. Stamper tells Bond that Dr. Kaufman, who you killed, was like a father to me. And Bond's like, oh, interesting role model. So, they're getting ready to be tortured. Bond and Wei Lin are cuffed together hand in hand, like sort of like this sort of thing. And they work together to break out. They escape, jump out a window. They try to escape the guards that are shooting at them, and they rappel down the Carver building that they're in using the Carver banner of Elliot Carver's face, and they break in through there and they keep trying to get out of the building. We have Carver's men chasing them down. They're trying to get away. All of a sudden, a bike comes out of nowhere. We have Wei Lin and Bond using this bike to escape. There's actually this cool helicopter chase to the Chinese markets and through the streets of China, where they're trying to just evade this helicopter, trying to shoot them or cut them up with the propeller blades, and they're trying to escape and everything. What happens is that they work together, and there's a part where they're in an alleyway, they're trapped. You have the guys getting ready to either shoot at them or come at them with the blades. And what happens is they take this clothesline that they have, they gun Wei Lin and Bond gun the motorcycle, and as they're gunning the motorcycle, they slip underneath the blades just enough, and then they get behind the helicopters. The helicopter's trying to reposition itself. They get the clothesline wrapped around the back blades of the helicopter to where the helicopter can't control itself. It crashes into the side of the building, and picture perfect. Just great stunts and great things that they did with the motorcycle and helicopter chase. It really was an awesome thing of beauty. Sorry guys, need a bit of a water thing here. Oh, it's always so good. Thank you for patience with that. And basically, as the film continues on, you have Bond and Wei Lin break away from each other because Wei Lin says, I work better alone. We don't need to really work together. So we have Bond sort of just being careful, looking for Wei Lin. Wei Lin is going into one of her secret hideouts, which is her own Q's lab. She's actually ambushed by these Chinese agents who were clearly under the employee of Elliot Carver. She's taking him out inside, and there's like a few guys watching from the outside. The Bond is taking care of and getting after them. And then we see like Wayland use her gadgets to defeat these guys, as well as a great martial arts scene. And seeing Michelle Yeoh do her martial arts style is always a thrill in any movie because she is really good at it. And I mean, I will prefer her over Jet Li any day of the week because Michelle Yeoh, in my opinion, is awesome. You know, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. I know she's been in a lot of other films other than that, but yeah, Michelle Yeoh, terrific actress and great, you know, Chinese actress, really good at what she does. So basically, Bond comes in at the last moment to help take out the last thug. Her and Bond decide to work together to help the world and both their governments. And 1 second, guys. I will be back. I'll have to edit this out too, but time for me to use the bathroom, I can tell. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but I am back. I have returned. Sorry about that. Like I said, that shall be edited out there. But thank you for your patience. But, you know, they decide to work together. They tell their, you know, respective governments they're going to be working together. And what happens is you have Wayland and Bond trying to find this stealth boat of Carver's. And they find the stealth boat. They sneak up to it. They sneak on it. And they're actually planting mines on the stealth boat to, you know, blow it up, so, or to at least damage it to where they had, because there's this British destroyer with who's captained by, British actor Pip Torres. I don't know if you guys know Pip Torres, but I've seen him from other different shows. But Pip Torres is the captain of this ship, and you know they're like he's on there telling his mates because they're getting ready to possibly attack China, but yet they're also giving Wayland and Bond time to do what they need to do. So they're out there just doing both things. But what happens is you know, Elliot Carver spots him on there, and he's like, "What the hell am I paying you people for?" Oh yeah, because they see Wayland, and she's like, "If she is there, Bond is there." You know, so what happens is men come out, they grab Wayland. You know, Wayland's trying to fight them off. Stamper basically just bangs her head into the metal, you know, ceiling of the ship to where that basically just takes her out of commission. She's not dead, but she's like dazed. It probably really hurting. Hopefully doesn't have a concussion, but she's really hurting from that. And they bring Wayland towards Carver, you know, Elliot Carver, and you know, Bond actually sneaks into the Stamper believed that he killed Bond because like he thought he shot Bond, but Bond killed another guy coming through the other side. And what happens is you know, Bond uses his body to sneak to the thing below. Stamper believed that he killed him, so you know they bring Wayland to Elliot Carver. Elliot Carver tells Wayland that you know Bond was dead. She tried to strike him, and like there's this funny scene where Carver actually does this weird little dance and like you know poorly imitates the Chinese martial arts, but it's actually a little funny to see. And he actually tells Wayland what he's finally getting out of everything because she's like, you know, General Chang swoops in, gets to have his war with the West, you know, and takes over as the main leader of, you know, the Chinese parliament. But what do you get? He's like, oh, I get nothing, my dear. Just broadcasting rights in China for the next 100 years. So it's like, you know, he finally gets what he wants, complete control of the Chinese media for the next 100 years. Probably even a bit more things from that once this war started. And what happens is you actually have Bond sneak into where Henry Gupta was you know, prepping the nuclear missile, and he holds him hostage. And you know, Bond tells Elliot Carver this. Elliot Carver, and Bond with all their men have a standoff. You know, some men are trying to sneak up on Bond. Bond basically just takes his Walther PP9, as he gets a new Walther in this one too. Before the end of the film, he takes a new Walther, and the Walther PP9 is what's represented in these films all the way till I think it's the same till after Casino Royale or just till after um Club Nuts. Uh, Die Another Day. I don't know which, but I think that's just what happens. So he takes out guys trying to get to him, and what happens is, they're at an impasse, and like they're saying, you give me Wei Lin, I give you back Henry Gupta, and you have Carver go, Mr. Gupta is the missile ready, and Henry Gupta's like, press the magic button, Beijing disappears, and then you have LA. Well, hold on, need a bit more water. You have LA Carver go, well, then it seems like you've outlived your contract. And then he just blankly shoots Henry Gupta in the chest, killing him. And like Elliot Carver goes, you see, Mr. Bond, I always have a backup plan. And Bond's like, well, Elliot, so do I. And then, because like what he did was he set up a grenade inside of a jar in the armory room to where I think he touches his watch. The pin goes off of the grenade. Boom! Huge explosion in the armory. Creates a big explosion as the British destroyer and the Chinese ships are getting close to each other to attack one another. But the British soldiers see the ship, and then the Chinese government's like, okay, now we see the ship you're chasing. Happy hunting. So the destroyer, you know, tries to go after it. What happens is you have Bond, trying to get to Elliot Carver. Wayland actually gets away and like goes after. Oh yeah, goes after the engine room to slow down the stealth boat. And what happens is she gets there, she destroys the engine room, and like pretty cool action scenes again, with the gunplay, martial arts, and stuff like that. Like Michelle Yeoh really did some awesome stuff in the movie, and I'm glad she had a little bit of focus on because when you work together like that, it's cool. And like with Michelle Yeoh, it's believable. Let me just say that what Halle Berry did in John Wick 3, very not believable. I can debate that at another time when we get to the John Wick movies, but we're not on those right now. But yeah, way, way two different things. And it's not like, Michelle Yeoh took over that much screen time from Bond anyway, but it was a cool thing to give her that screen time to help Bond take out to do what she, you know, needed to do. And And as we, see, it continued on, and Bond was trying to get to the main control room to make sure the missile didn't fire. And what happens is he takes out the guys in the main control room, and then L.A. Carver's right behind there, starts hitting Bond from behind, and he's like, "You think you've stopped me, Mr. Bond? You think you've won? You're about to destroy the only evidence there is, and And the thing is, I'll still make sure that missile goes off. And when it does, I will be there in a Carver helicopter, providing the pictures. And then all of a sudden, we see the switch to where Bond turns on the cutting torpedo cutter, the thing that broke in and sunk the HMS Devonshire. So the blade started to spin. Elliot Carver sees this. Bond basically starts hitting and grabbing Elliot Carver. He takes the gun away and he's like, I think I have some breaking news for you, Elliot. Give the people what they want. Give them the news with you. Or something like that. I know it was something to that nature. And what happens is he holds Elliot Carver as this chopper missile gets close, and he lets him go to where Carver's trapped. He can't move, and man, gets crushed and eviscerated by the missile as it goes into the tower that he was like right up against. And it's like, damn. I mean, once again, they didn't show blood splatter or nothing, but just the effect of how Elliot Carver died was like, holy shit. But well deserved because Carver was a dingus, and and many things like that. It's like they deserve. Like we always say, do the villains always have to die? But hey, in a lot of the Bond films, the villains do die. There were very rare instances where the villains didn't fully die. I mean, the one who survived the longest was Ernst Strauvel Blofeld. But then eventually in For Your Eyes Only, he finally meets his match for Bond, and For Your Eyes Only. And what happens is we think this is ending, but like I said, but also in the engine room during all that, we saw a gun get pointed at Wei Lin. Wei Lin, doesn't like try or anything because she's trapped, and we see Stamper who like has her on the missile, and like she's wrapped in chains, these heavy chains, and what happens is you have I guess this, yeah, it's this switch to disarm the warhead. What happens is Wayland tosses the switch to Bond. Bond presses the switch to disarm the warhead, and what happens is you have Stamper who purposely drops Wayland in the water, hoping she drowns and dies. You have Stamper and Bond fighting each other to where they're trying to stab or hit each other. Bond's trying to stab Stamper in the arm. He doesn't feel it. He's like immune to the pain, and he does that six smile like, come on, keep doing it more and more, like, you're not stopping me, and then all of a sudden, Bond is like hitting him, and Stamper falls, gets his foot caught in one of the like devices that hold the missile in, so he can't move his foot, he's trapped there, and all of a sudden, Bond falls too, but like Stamper holds on to his vest, and the missile is going to go off, but the nuclear warhead isn't going to be damaged or explode or anything, but the missile is going to destroy, or the missile along with the British ship chasing them are going to destroy the rest of the stealth boat. And what happens you have Stamper go, we'll die together, Mr. Bond. Oh yeah, and also Stamper got stabbed in the. Oh wait, no, that's what comes next. Next, you have Bond taking Stamper. He stabs him in the chest with a knife, which actually causes Stamper to gasp. And what happens is I think Bond either takes that same knife that he stabbed him with in his chest and then took it out, and he basically cut through his vest, and Bond falls into the water to where he's swimming to Wayland and basically breathes in her so she can get breath and survive. And what happens is you have like the bomb go off right at Stamper's foot. Stamper's like, oh, and like, boom, explosion. Stamper's killed and dead now too. So basically, Wayland and Bond come up and start making out and start loving each other because, the British ship is looking for him. Commander Bond, Commander Lynn, are you there? And he's like, let's stay under or whatnot. And the movie ends with that similar thing, M and Samantha Bond, or sorry, M and Moneypenny make up a headline that Elliot Carver would do, like smearing Elliot Carver and things like that. So cool ending to the movie. It was a good movie. I know a lot of people for some reason don't like Tomorrow Never Dies. I don't know why. It was a good movie, full of great action, good story. The score by what's his name, David Arnold, who finally took over the scores for, I'm going to say, the next, because I think he also did Quantum of Solace. So if you count that, let's see, Tomorrow Never Dies, World Is Not Enough, Die Another Day, Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace. He takes over the scores for the next 5 movies, and you have to say, for him doing the next 5 films, he did some fantastic music on this film, and this was the start of it. And David Arnold did a wonderful score. Like, David Arnold, I think, was a good return to the John Barry scores. Like, he was the one to capture the same, magic that, John Barry did doing the scores, and also you could say Monty Feldman, who did score the very first movie, with help, of course, from John Barry, who I think was an additional score for Dr. No as well. So John Barry worked on everything, and you had David Arnold, who does, I believe, these 5 pictures. But great stuff. Let's see that. Let's see here. Let's see. So yeah, Bruce Firestein with this story, did a pretty good story. It was a great introduction to the media and how like the negativity or whatnot could be surrounding it, could be real, or how does the media push these types of stories out on us? All these different things and whatnot. So there's that too. Great producing by Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli again. Roger Spottiswoode directed, quite an entertaining movie here. He was the director for this movie, Roger Spottiswoode. Directed quite an entertaining movie. The movie is not as long as some of the ones previous. It was only an hour and 57 minutes as opposed to like 2 hours and 5 or 2 hours and 12. So, a little bit longer than its predecessor movies, but still at an hour and 57 minutes, you get a great film, great action, great story, lots of fun. I mean, it was a good movie, and for Tomorrow Never Dies here, and as I could also say for here too, for Tomorrow Never Dies, what did you guys think of this movie? I mean, do you like Tomorrow Never Dies? Is it one that resonated with you too? Because it did for me as well. I think it was still a good movie. I enjoyed it. I loved what they were able to achieve. Good movie. I give it a solid 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 movie. Not as great as Goldeneye was, but, still held up really well. Entertaining movie, great action, pretty good story, good stuff. So, let me know what you thought, in the comments below. Just like thumbs up the video if you want, and just let me know what you guys think. Was this a good movie? And like I said, if you have any possible requests or anything, I will see if I can get to them. If not, I'll keep doing what I'm doing here. But until then, this is 012 Boku. I came at you with another movie review for Tomorrow Never Dies, and I will see you again soon. Okay? All right. Deuces. And apologies if this video has gone an hour. So I didn't intend that, but it did. So, hey.